request Professor Sholesh Naik to chair this session.
Thank you very much, and good morning to everybody. We had a very fruitful discussion yesterday, and I think today we have mainly focused on the industry, and of course, in the end, we would like to form certain recommendations. So, first of all, I would like to invite Mr. Persis Bilimodia, who is a visiting associate, Center for Climate Repair, Bengaluru University, to talk on the importance of real-time emission data for industry and policy framing. So, Persis, floor is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Naik and Bufran and everyone for having me here. So I think yesterday we covered a fair part, I think quite a bit of the importance of emission data, real-time emission data for industry. And we also heard from the industry's side what the asks and requirements would be for them to be proactive in, as Dr. Naik said, in synthesizing science with industry and policy making, which is so critical. I'll just quickly run through some of my thoughts, not many science-based, but they're more relevant to industry and policy making. So the first one is that we start with what gets measured can be managed, and I think that's so important, because if we are not aware of where there are lapses in the manufacturing process on line, in the end product utilization, or even in the process of eventual utilization, you will not be able to manage what you cannot measure or you do not know. And an example for this is that normally businesses should actually take a first step in defining the problem at hand. It's not an easy task to measure CO2 or CO2EX, but there are companies globally and in India like Shell, BP, Apple, Meta, who all are now reporting their CO2 emissions, not just because it's becoming mandatory for security exchange disclosures, but also because in simple terms, in business terms, less CO2EX is less cost. And as our Honorable Prime Minister has emphasized Atmanirbhar Bharat program, in order to be globally competitive, we have to manage our cost situations. Also, it's important to realize that lowering or measuring your GHG emissions, it's one before the other, goes hand in hand with increasing efficiency levels as well. For instance, a case study which I just did was Walmart identified through its GHG emissions that they spend a lot of energy on heating and cooling of their buildings, in their hypermarkets and supermarkets. So they installed about 10,000 high-efficiency rooftop heating and cooling units. This measure avoided about 600,000 tons of CO2 per year, and the cost saving was approximately 64 crores. Now, how they've come to the value of 64 crores, I have not been into, but I assume that it's a significant amount for any company's bottom lines. And it was a fairly simple process. I do also realize that a lot of industry, because of the current economic situations globally, will always, before implementing any measures, be it environmental, social, or otherwise, will always look at an ROI, which is a return on investment. So unless your initiative and unless your methodology or your technology is cost effective in terms of both in terms of application and in terms of investment, companies and industry will not take that lead. The other interesting aspect which I've been studying is that increasing number of companies will very shortly be mandated to pay a price for every ton of CO2 or CO2EX that they emit. It's actually called the Carbon Emission Trading System, CETS. And on a trend level, there's more carbon trading and pricing initiatives that are emerging. The prices for GHG emissions are also on the rise. And a lot of private sector companies are now engaging and implementing with internal carbon pricing systems. What I'm trying to say here is I combine this also with a topic which is very dear to my heart, which I spoke in 2018 at a conference, is the cost of natural capital. And this goes into the entire system, the entire ecosystem of manufacturing, that it's essential that we build in the cost of natural capital and fit in the internal carbon pricing systems as well into that whole ecosystem. Thereby, industry gets a holistic picture of exactly where they are in terms of both environmental, social governance, which is ESG. It's an advantage because you stay ahead of competition and it's a business opportunity. The other important thing for industry, for real-time emission data information and for industry to be proactive is transparency and brand image, which is increasing considerably because now a lot of customers and consumers are being educated on basically what the company is producing, how they're producing it, and the methodologies going into that production. I recently did a paper on something which is very less known in India, and this is what I was discussing with Dr. Naik the other day, was the concept of a B corporation, and that is a benefit corporation. And I think globally there are about 5,000 B corporations. The largest B corporation that is well known is a very large company called Danone, which is a dairy farming company which make dairy product. And the B corporation, basically the underlying principles are that it's a company not just for profit, but also social and environmental good. And this is very critical also because once a corporation embraces social, environmental, and business aspects, you become a holistic corporation, and then there is no need for any outside forces to exert pressure on you. The entire culture breeds from within the organization structure. And this is very important also going forward for industry, especially air conditioning and refrigeration in a sense, because then it creates also enables and creates research institutions within the corporations themselves. So they learn internally, and the advantage of learning internally is that you can then extend the knowledge that you receive to other peers within your industry group, which is so important. Another example, Phil mentioned yesterday the importance of tracking SF gases in the semiconductor business. And there's a company in the US called Bioscience, who for the first time is a semiconductor manufacturing company, and they became a B corporation. So if a semiconductor manufacturing company can become a B corporation, there is no reason why the others cannot. And so basically, to sum up the whole situation, I think we've seen yesterday that industry is extremely proactive. I think industry can drive policy making, at least in the segment that we are looking at and concentrating on. I think the gap comes where the data, if the real-time data is not provided to industry, then they don't know what to address. And if we can correct this anomaly and sort of hold hands between all the three groups, science, industry, and policy making, I think it becomes a much fairer marketplace for consumers, for the country, and for our environment. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Persis. I think you gave an extremely good overview, and the concept of a B corporation is, I think, really worth pursuing. So thank you very much for your thoughts. And now I request Dr. Rajendra Shendel, the former director of UNEP and chairman Terre Policy Center, to speak on climate change and policy outreach towards net neutral. Dr. Shendel, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Director Shailesh Nayak. First of all, not only I want to thank you for inviting me, particularly to my friend Gufran, but also an opportunity to talk further with the Director, as well as a number of industry participants, eminent scientists, and other civil society members who are gathered here. I find it extremely exemplary organization of the event, because it's the right kind of representation is there, objective is very clear, and we know what recommendations they are slowly gelling in our minds. And I'm sure that will come out with a grand plan and putting India into what is called as a map of what is happening in
everyone. This is down here in Paris.
Yeah, Phil, know some. In Paris, yeah.
Are you not able to see?
Yeah, it will not be because
Yes,
another in local presentation. So remotely near, it's not going.
Share.
Phil, are you able to listen to us?
no, I am able, I'm sorry. It did come through, but thank you.
Can you see the slides?
I do.
Yes, okay, thank you. So, welcome. I was praising the way this is not only how good it is organized, but how it is slowly coming to the right kind of fulfilling the target and objective of this meeting, which is most important, because many times the presentations are made and where exactly we are going, we don't know it. And probably my presentation could fall into that category, that I may be slightly off in terms of emissions and instruments and geographical locations where to put industries. But I think being the second day, I feel nice that probably we'll put into some offbeat path of doing it. So let me first tell where I come from. I'm not a policy maker, but I dealt with policy makers. I'm an IIT Bombay chemical engineer. Fully know how HFC is produced and CFCs were produced. And its production of those chemicals is not a rocket technology at all. Having worked with them and number of other fluorochemicals and group 8 chemicals and all those things. Yesterday, scientist Bhattacharya told that I spent my whole life in ozone layer protection. I did not. I spent probably 20 years, less than 20 years. Before that, I was in the private sector, worked with Tata Chemicals and others. and then was selected in United Nations to lead this program called as Ozone Action Program. So when you say ozone action, there is no E between ozone N and then action. And that program became so successful that it was copied as a climate action by UNFCCC now. But it is not only the program which became successful, the whole protocol became successful because we succeeded in stabilizing the depletion of the ozone layer. And we know by 2065, we will probably come back to what is called as a virgin condition of the ozone layer, which we damaged it to the extent that the whole world was quite worried. In fact, many of the young people today are born after the Montreal Protocol was established. So they have forgotten this success story, and many times successes are forgotten, failures are remembered. So the climate change failure will remember for a very long time. I was a coordinating lead author for IPCC. In 2007, that IPCC won the Nobel Peace Prize. And being a coordinating lead author, I also had an opportunity to get what is called as a Global Peace Prize, Nobel Peace Prize citation, which I very proudly display at my home, not in the office. So my presentation is about a totally offbeat track, and let's see how it is being received. I am also not confident about it. I'm telling these two Earths, what we stand today, 1.2 degrees centigrade global warming and 300 DU, probably now 250 or something, it is getting stabilized. But we want to get down to 100 Dobson unit ozone and 0.2 degrees centigrade. And you'll come to know why I'm saying 0.2 degrees centigrade and not 0 degrees centigrade. In few weeks, we will say goodbye to 2022. And that year represented 8 billionth of baby born on this earth. And also, I think that some of the text is getting, because if you can adjust that PD, the one fill who joined, somewhere up, that could be a good one, if possible. But what I'm saying is, 8 billionth baby born, at the same time 2022 year, total loss due to the climate change estimated very recently, of course few weeks are yet to go, $40 billion US dollars. It's not moving. GHG emissions are rising, population rising, disaster rising, temperature rising, poverty rising, and sea level rising. And this is all rising curves we have been seeing for the last year. And 2022 continued that trend. And what about our actions? Well, I feel sad having worked for the Ozone Action Program, where exactly on a dot on 1st January 2010, the CFC production disappeared from this earth. There is a huge story. How it disappeared is another thing. But here, I feel particularly sad that while everything, those disasters are rising, implementation, finance, and action are decreasing, in fact. So what I'm saying is the business as usual is, which I have seen many times in many conferences, and that seems to be the trend, that you have a science, then you have policy, and then we start action. In Ozone Action Program, this is what happened. It is called the evidence-based policy, started from a very small thing and got strengthened. So science immediately provoked actions, and the actions and the policies probably moved parallel, but the policy got strengthened because the action started producing results. And people thought that if policies can dovetail with the actions, then probably we will be able to accelerate action. So I am proposing that, and particularly in climate change, because we are in a cliff. We are in what is called as a possibly reaching the point of no return. We are standing on a cliff. And hence, what is needed first is action. This is a very famous bar chart. Don't read those things. I will explain to you. Past and present, that is in blue, is the climate benefit of the Montreal Protocol and the Kyoto Protocol. You can see it's about 200 gigaton of carbon dioxide equivalent already phased out due to the CFC phase out. Because the CFCs are also global warming. And that's why they are not in the Kyoto Protocol. Kyoto Protocol, as of today, possibly not more than 10 gigaton equivalent of carbon dioxide reduced, but we have seen that rising curve of concentration that continues. So Kyoto Protocol and the Paris Climate Agreement, which came later on, have no effect on international policy. Future under Montreal Protocol, which is a Kigali Amendment, HFCs, that is going to benefit another equivalent, almost equivalent amount. The hash one is a high end, and the dark one, the dense one, is a low end estimates. So you can see the strength of the Montreal Protocol is that we are not only succeeded in reducing carbon dioxide equivalent because of the CFC phase out, but due to the HFC phase down and probably later on phase out, we'll have an equivalent amount of carbon dioxide eliminated. But look, that is not the only success of Montreal Protocol, and this is what I want to emphasize. What is going to get eliminated, like HFC, is a short-lived climate pollutant. What it means? That is going to give us in a shortest time benefit, unlike carbon dioxide. And this needs to be emphasized. We need to understand it well, that this short-lived carbon pollutant, SLCP, that is the right abbreviation, that gives us the immediate benefit. When I say immediate, not tomorrow, but much earlier than carbon dioxide. And that's why probably in this bad news of rising disasters, there is a good news of opportunities that we exist. The total door of the opportunity is not closed, and in SLCP, the window of opportunity is open, and it all depends on us how we take benefit. And that's why this conference, we start about measuring, without which we cannot manage it. I think this point comes first. Now, the executive director of UNEP recently asked this question. If a credible group of scientists, like what we have today here, convey that energy efficiency improvement due to the HFC phase out can give at least 20% of advantage of reducing global warming. And that's what even the industry is telling. Yesterday we heard the industry, particularly Daikin, that 20% in fact is somewhere middle. We can go up to 30 to 40% energy efficiency by replacing HFC by other refrigerants which exist today. So the opportunity exists. Now imagine the same group of scientists tell us that reduce global warming by another half a degree if the energy efficiency associated with HFC phase down is accounted. So global warming is reduced due to HFC phase down or phase out, and the energy efficiency associated with replacing HFCs probably can give a half a degree. You combine that and we get a 1 degree advantage. And this is not a small one. And associated benefits, if that group of scientists tell you could have 2.5 million lives annually saved due to reduced air pollution and cut global crop loss by 50 million tons a year due to the climate benefit we are going to get because of the HFC phase down. And if reduce the global warming by half a degree Celsius in a short run by 2100. 2100 is a short run because CO2 elimination is going to benefit us after 2100. Before 2100, our only hope is short-lived climate pollutant. So what do we do? If the scientists are telling us that, do we set policies knowing that we are standing on a cliff, or we act, run and accelerate? Sorry for that spelling mistake. And that's what I'm going to propose. I'm not only going to point out that we must start running and acting and collect the evidence-based policies to set up so that the acceleration can take fast. So I have come out with this project which Gufran knows. I hinted to Shailesh Jwellerji, also Persis, and that is called as a SCCN, Smart Campus Cloud Network. This is the education sector. We are talking about a sectoral phase out. Air conditioning is one sector, refrigeration is another sector, mobile air conditioning is another sector, transport is another sector. For me, the education sector is the one where the action starts without waiting, because campus is a living lab, and that living lab is worked upon by the youth, and youth is our resource globally, but particularly in India, because the youth is not the one who is going to consume resources. They are going to create resources. They are going to create a knowledge resource. So it's a global network of universities which emphasizes learning by doing, accelerating by sharing, and I will come to that, what does it mean exactly, managing by measuring, monitoring by digitalizing, taking advantage of today's technology, and innovating by co-creating. I don't think one can put yourself or oneself in a silos and start creating. I think probably those days are gone. We used to create in the garages, the computers and all that, but now you have the huge offices where the codes are set up and the apps are made and the socially beneficial digitalization is created. And the partnerships helps us in reimagining the things. So learning by doing and accelerating by sharing will help not only the actions but also the policy making. So what we are doing is the university campus, and I am coming to this, that is not only education sector, but the research sectors also have huge campuses. For example, NIAS is very proud of an excellent campus. Indian Institute of Science is an excellent campus. And we have about 40 CSIR laboratories. Green campuses can be what is called as sustainable campuses, or net zero, or if Persis Bilmuria insists, net neutral campuses. Objective? If at all we make the campuses carbon neutral, it builds a skill of youth for SDG and net zero. Enhances the employability. In a world 4.0, I'm not going to go in detail, but 4.0 is not only the machine-to-machine learning, but more than one machine and more than one human can start collaborating, and a word like robotics is becoming archaic now. We are talking about cobotics. And Persis mentioned about collaboration. We collaborate to invent and innovate and reimagine. International mobility, recognition for youth, recognition for India, because yesterday people were talking about any recommendation coming from here and setting up the center for the short-lived climate pollutants probably can be exported. Those ideas and technologies and measurements, those can be exported to the whole world, and that's how India can take a leadership in this century. So it's not only the university to university R&D cooperation, but also within India, CSIR can and the research institutes can collaborate. So it is a social governance, ESG mentioned by Persis. is a ecological, environmental, social governance, entrepreneurship will get skilled in a campus of universities. How that idea has come? The idea has come from Antonio Guterres stating that future is in education and with youth. Coming from Prime Minister Modi, who has started Net Zero campaign and the Life campaign, is a lifestyle for environment. And then our mentors for this movement are Prakash Javadekar and Eric Solon, who was the earlier executive director and Under Secretary General of United Nations. They are guiding this event globally. Our associates are UNESCO, a number of, in fact, some of the civil societies in China. For example, Beijing University is one of the leading registered member of Smart Campus Cloud Network. Some of the guidelines, because we don't want to prepare manuals, because the students are capable of producing better manuals than what any one of us can. And I think they are leading what is called as reimagining the manuals. And these are some of the examples of this. Carbon neutral guidelines are being prepared, not again a manual. And nowadays there is an emphasis not only on outdoor environment quality or outdoor air quality index, but also indoor air quality index. And we have come out with this with the help of some of the international organizations. This is interesting. I think this is the most relevant slide, and probably earlier one was just to make you impact. And you can see Gufran there. You can also see probably me there, and a number of atmospheric scientists there. This is the first air quality index monitoring station in university campus, which is on suffer. And this particular air quality monitoring station not only sees the air quality in the campus, but also 10 kilometers around the campus. And the students of this particular university, which is MIT World Peace University, worked with Gufran's IITM to write a code to get those indicators or indices on suffer. So they, in fact, contributed and participated in doing this. And you can see this last one, co-through MIT. That MIT is the name of the university, and you can see the air quality index there. And this is one of the examples how the universities can inspire the industry campuses, the research institute campuses. Even a Google complex in Hyderabad can to set up such kind of units so that we have something measured and hence we can manage it. This is what I call it accelerate by sharing. And this is a digital dashboard that we have developed where the university campuses can not only share the online real-time measurements of energy and carbon dioxide emissions, but they can also share their success stories and not so succeeded stories. And this is an example. When you click on this dashboard, what we get? We get how much energy is being produced by renewable energy in the campus, and what is its cost, how much kW of energy is being used, how much emissions is being done, and those kind of things. So I come to the end of it by saying that a window of opportunity is open. It may start with the measurement, or it may start parallel with action and measurement, and probably policies can be parallel. And I'm just suggesting here while closing that it is not only university campus. I think the research institute campus or even an industry campus can become carbon neutral by joining and registering with us and taking a pledge. So though the NIAS talks about just do it, probably after a few years or few months, this slide will say, just did it. We did the carbon neutrality because it's not a rocket science. And you can register yourself on SCCN Hub, talk to us, and we'll walk the talk. Not that we will hold the torch in front of you, because you are the torch, and we can do it together. I definitely want to spell out what Antonio Guterres said very recently, United Nations Secretary General, my ultimate boss, before I retired. To waste this opportunity, and I am talking about the opportunity of HFC phase down and short-lived climate pollutant opportunity. To waste this opportunity would compromise our last best chance to stop runaway climate change, which is an irreversible climate change. It would not only be immoral to do it, but it would be suicidal. And he said that based on 3 major reports, which has come out just before COP27 in Egypt where I was, and what people were talking about. The first was IPCC, the second was emission gap report, which clearly said that we are on a track of 2.8 degrees centigrade, much above 1.5. And the third report, which probably many of you might not have read, is the report by the Google, done with the help of experts, which says use of digitalization can accelerate the decarbonization by 30 to 40%. Imagine today internet would not have been there, digital technology, apps are not there, probably the decarbonization rate would be slowed down, and we must take advantage of it. So the Smart Campus Cloud Network is an investment in future and not in the past, and we have to transform so that no one is left behind. I think that ends my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Shinde. I think you had said the whole ruling about this, what are other issues also we need to address. And I think you are very much on the topic, though you said you are not on the mainstream, but I think it is also mainstream. So thank you very much for your talk. I thank both the speakers and the participants. Yeah, that's what some questions everybody has, we have some time. Yeah.
Marcis, any question? No, sorry, Phil, any question?
I was wondering, it was a little bit hard for me to hear everything. There's a little bit of a feedback in my system today here, but I guess my question is, this is I assume so the SCCN model is it doesn't stop at the campus level. I'm assuming that the idea is for this to become a seed for society. It's not, it's a learning by doing kind of thing, but I guess the idea is it has to scale and propagate. And I'm wondering, where are you in that life cycle? Where are you right now with this program in that life cycle? Maybe you mentioned it already and I didn't pick it up. But I'm wondering, I think it has promise and it could be something very useful for the ongoing program that we envision. And I'm wondering where you are right now in the life cycle and what do you think is the ultimate scaling of this?
Yeah, thank you, Phil. As always, appreciate question coming from Paris.
Anyway, I can't see the room right now. I'm wondering if I don't see this in white screen right now.
Done?
Maybe you have to start sharing the screen or something.
Yeah, that's right. If we see other participants
Steve Munskis says
online,
Steve Munskis says he sees the room. I don't know why I don't.
Not see much.
We are also not able to see you.
Phil, yeah. Yesterday we were able to see.
I'm gonna come back. I'm gonna leave and come back.
I think Steve Musaka is online. Are you able to see us, Steve?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So, yeah, Phil is there now. Yeah. Right. So, Phil, I was just saying that I appreciate your question, particularly early morning in Paris. And mornings in Paris are always innovative. I spent about 20 years in Paris. So, with of course croissant along with me in the mornings. Good question. I avoided those numbers because I wanted to make up a point without numbers. But there are about 400 universities which have been registered for Smart Campus Cloud Network. Most of them are from India. But we shouldn't forget about some of them from 20 from abroad, including I mentioned about a Bijou University, one university in Portugal, about 4 or 5 of them from Latin America, North America, and even in Canada. There are some IITs and the prestigious institutes also are part of this network. So that is what the status is. But that is not the only thing, it's not a number. I think the question was, my whole presentation was on action, and I'm very pleased to say that some of these very prestigious universities have started actions. And let me talk about 2 universities first. One is a Ferguson College. Why I'm taking it is one of the oldest college campus, which is now deemed the university, has started what is called as developing a bench line scenario or auditing of the baseline. And then based on that, they will start a roadmap towards a net neutral or carbon neutral campus. Number of other universities are also doing the same thing. About 250 universities have taken a pledge for carbon neutrality.
Rajendra, my question is that beyond university,
I'm coming to that now. So that is about the university. And I think some of them can get going just based on the textbook they have or the guidelines they have. It is not necessary that my organization goes there and does that. So the life status is evolving and getting more and more dynamic. That is overall I can say.
Yeah, so you're starting to get towards what I was digging for, which is we had a lot of discussion yesterday about the importance of engagement and training with the decision makers and policy makers, the action points that Professor Nayak, I was so happy he started the day making, the connection of what we're talking about. We're talking about, in essence, what can we do to translate research successes into delivering information, but it has to map to the action, right? Which is what you're also talking about. So in a university environment where I've lived most of my adult life, as a student and as a professor, it's something that you see all the time is the value of death phenomenon, right? Where, in academia, and what the university does within its ivory tower walls is one thing, and how do we get that to cross over, to get academics and students to get out of their laboratories and to get out of their comfort zone in academia and roll up their sleeves and get their uniform dirty, dealing with real world, dirty, challenging, messy problems, right? And to try to, so part of the wonderful part of yesterday was this recognition that kept reappearing of, this idea of being realistic about, yes, we all are aware of the motherhood statement that user engagement is critically important without necessarily recognizing the practical challenges of that, both in terms of what researchers are rewarded for in their careers versus, maybe they're let set up to get so rewarded for not publishing papers and things like that, and teaching courses, but getting out into the community. So the program like SCCM, I think, to me, when I talk about the scaling and the life cycles, how can we take the successes of within the university and start expanding those into society? And what are the formal ways that we do this engagement without being policy prescriptive? We don't want to go and say, we know what decisions you should be making. We want to try to say, we have key information that's filling gaps in information that, there's a word in climate MRV. You know, MRV is measuring, reporting, and verifying. And the IPCC protocol for emission inventories, they always talk about the MRV, the quality control. And the key thing is, come on, throw it down. The key thing is for me, how can you find the key information that delivers what we call additionality in the MRV world. There's a word called additionality, meaning that the information that we could deliver that's new, coming from the top down, coming from the analysis of measurements, we want to make sure that we're working with the people who really, this kind of information could make a difference, and they could make more valuable, more efficient climate action plans, other kinds of environmental resource management plans that are more efficient, more valuable because of this additional information. And so a program like SCCM, I really love the concept, and it's a question for me is how can it be, you know, amplified to go outside of the university walls and participate with us in this big challenge of engaging with the users in cities, in companies, the private sector, in federal government, in state governments. That's the idea of my question.
Yeah, Phil, I must admit that in terms of those impacts and scale up and speed up, probably your thoughts have given more ideas to us than what we already thought of. So let me admit that to that extent, that dimension is not yet fully done. But let me see conceptually where we are. We have seen in the past that most of the changeover or the revolution or abrupt changes into the political system in science, technologies and all that, all originated from the universities. And I don't think we should go into the history how the university students are helped in making that transformation. So that is some kind of a threat that if we require in a climate change to similar thing to happen, then the youth is the one who can do that. So the youth becomes the ambassador for future. Youth of course takes it to their parents. The parents talk to their friends and they talk to their own society and say that look, this happened, this is doable, let's get going on this job. And that kind of a spread and scale have been thought of. The second point, and that's what Gufran was hinting me, and I talked to Shailesh on this, but it is not only universities, campuses. We are talking about when it comes to something basic science, which is again evolving in terms of solutions and in terms of what is called as dotting the problems, where exactly the problem lies. Research institutes, campuses should also get engaged in it. We have not thought of it before. I did not think about it till I received the invitation from Gufran. And then I started a dialogue with Shailesh and Gufran on that let's get the research campuses also into it. Again, your question remains that how the research can spread up and how it reaches to the society. But yeah, and that also can be thought of because in India we have about 40 CSIR laboratories and I don't know, another 40 research centers. Plus I think there are some advanced research centers being run like NIAS. And how they can collaborate together. I mean, whenever it comes to research, Phil, we always say oh, India has 40 laboratories. And we stop there. According to me, India has 1,000 universities, and each university can be a laboratory, and they should collaborate.
It's a laboratory in many senses of the word.
Right.
It's a laboratory in the real sense of where we do the research, and it's a laboratory for how we solve the problems of society.
Right.
And so it's both.
Yeah.
And thank you very much for the answer. Thank you very much for the answer.
Yeah. One last thing, Phil, I want to tell is our collaboration with UNESCO, which is very close collaboration for this SCCN, is not only in terms of because UNESCO is an education sector, United Nations, or just science sector. They have a very important program which is emerging now, and Antonio Guterres has taken a note of it and wants to take up it as a major issue in 21st century. Is called as open access data. And some of my questions yesterday to the participants were based on that. That we generate a data, but is it accessible to the society? And if it is accessible, is it actionable? And those kind of communications are yet to be done.
Yes, it's the work that you're talking about is exactly what I was getting at. It's that translation. We have shelves of research and development accomplishments, but you can't just throw that whole thing over the transom to society. You have to do the work of listening, and it's the co-design. We need to get, and I love the idea of having students as an army, that we grow this army of people that get out into the world and try to deliver. It's a co-design process of solutions. And I think this process that you're talking about could be part of the solution. But I don't want to just, I think you should carry this conversation that we're having right now into the next conversation that we have scheduled down on the agenda. I think this is a nice segue, and I'm sure maybe others in the room have a question or two for you before we do that, but I love this is a segue. I think this is a very nice segue to the next agenda item. And yeah,
just two things, Gufran, I know it is getting delayed. Two things I just wanted to point out. One is this open access data of UNESCO is coming as one of the important solutions for climate change. It says that don't hold the technology data for alternatives to the present climate change problems to yourself. Make it open to everyone. It's just like COVID-19 vaccine. I mean, it need not be kept it. Second point, yesterday evening during our dinner, sorry to disclose that, Shailesh is sitting next to me, but I like that NIAS, what they are doing. It's not just desk research. Yesterday he was called by the Chief Minister of Karnataka to talk about air pollution. And that kind of an interaction with the governance and the scientists is going to be very important, and that is slowly coming up, and I think that we should catch up in our recommendations which we are going to make at the end of the day. So
yes, and I'm glad you mentioned recommendations. Before Gufran and Professor Nayak take us forward in the agenda, I just wanted to mention to everyone still with us today that the organizers will prepare an initial draft of the summary of our discussions and the white paper concept going forward. And we really want to make sure that everyone who's still assembled knows that we want them to be an active part of the process of distilling down the key nuggets that we want to create into an action list coming forward from this meeting in the form of a white paper. So I'm glad you mentioned that. I just wanted to throw that out to make sure that everyone assembled knows that there's work to be done after today.
thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other? We'll continue after the debate, I think. So thank you, Phil, and all others on the online and my colleagues here. We'll break for about 15 minutes and
To 11:25 we can do.
yeah.
Till our tea time, your breakfast time.
And I'll take a and I see behind President Nayak are coming from NPL. We have already got some ideas for the next conversation that but you, from the remarks you made yesterday, to participate actively. So I'll see you after the coffee.
Okay, so 11:25.
Okay.
11:25.